17.
Welcome.
Oh.
Oh. I have to do it all over again. Welcome to, as you know, this is Measure of an Episode, where our continuing mission is to explore what makes a Star Trek, an episode of Star Trek episodes, proper Star Trek episodes, and not just good or bad, or meandering, or lecturous television.
Yeah.
My name is Paul.
Yeah. And I'm Jonathan. And the three criteria we use are: is there sci-fi integral to the plot? Is there a moral or ethical dilemma that is presented within the episode? And as one of our Patreon contributors suggested, which I don't particularly like just because it's still too vague, but he called it the Jean-Luc Sequoia, where it's just something that just makes it Star Trek, but that's too subjective. So we're still looking for that third one.
Yeah, I like the direction though. I like that perhaps a single character might influence something like that. I suppose it kind of gets there. I don't know if it's Jean-Luc or not. If anybody, it'd be Data.
Right, but Data's not in every series. So the moment we go out of TNG, it'd be like, is Data in it? Nope, not a Star Trek episode.
Huh? But checks out. Works for me.
And he was in this episode, so therefore, this was a Star Trek episode.
Yeah. So the episode we watched was the Next Generation Season 4, Episode 15, First Contact, where the
Borg
crew
travel back.
The crew of the Enterprise go back in time. You stole my joke.
Sorry.
You stole it.
Sorry. And then they were like, wait a minute, let's make this into a movie instead. So let's hold on that. But we still have the title. Shoot. Let's put something else in there.
We can't change the title. Nobody's ever done that before. So the blurb to this is: a surgically altered Riker has been on an acculturation mission for months under an alias, but a serious injury threatens to blow his cover. Which is not really what this episode is about. I mean, I can see how it's sort of, yes, there is sections of this episode that deal with this, but Riker is kind of barely in this episode.
Right.
In terms of just...
Yeah, the episode revolves around him. Yeah, but
yeah.
As far as lines go and actual, he's more the plot device than a character in the plot.
He's a MacGuffin.
He absolutely is. That's kind of cool.
He's Riker MacGuffin. Yeah.
Wouldn't he be William MacGuffin? Or did he get married?
I think it's hyphenated,
right.
But only in this episode. What I love, of course, about this episode, kind of threw me for a loop, is that it kind of starts off. It hits the ground running.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love. I love these types of episodes where we are thrown into the middle of something and we're forced to sort of put some things together that as the plot line progresses.
Oh, really?
And yeah.
Oh, I don't think you've ever mentioned that before. Huh. Okay.
No.
Yeah, first time. All right. First time for everything. Well, yeah. But it's so funny. Like when you're dealing with surgery as the cold open, unless the episode is about the surgery. Yes, we're jumping into the middle of the action, but after the theme song or the titles or whatever, it comes back and the person is recovering from the surgery. So there's no continued action within that.
This episode really has zero momentum for me. I mean, it just kind of stops.
Yeah, and it was very cool. Like I was thinking about, because I really like this episode. I've remembered this episode, and so watching the intro, kind of reflectively, like this must have been a great open because you don't know any of the people, and TV being not as pervasive and abundant as it is now, this must have been very cool to know that it's Star Trek because you're dealing with aliens, you can tell right away, but wondering who is going to be on the gurney, the operating table, and for the and it was really well shot to be hiding him the whole time and then have the camera swing around and show his face and realize that that's definitely Riker. I'd know that beard anywhere.
It's funny. I didn't notice that just because I knew who it was, because I like you had seen this episode before, and I just wasn't. I kind of just wasn't looking for that type of thing because I knew
you need to pay more attention. So yeah, like the thing that I was saying, the note that I had was we know that Riker is on a covert mission just because this is Star Trek. It's 4 seasons in, and we know that kind of thing. But it was neat to see him try to dance around the questions that they were asking him, like while still having a head injury, trying to provide the information that they were asking him.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a scene that we know what's going to happen, right? There's nothing that's going to happen in this scene that is going to pop out as like, oh, that was interesting. That was a turn from what normally happens in this type of scene.
Right. Yeah. No, there wasn't any of that. Yeah. There wasn't anything that that spun that. You're right.
And I don't know. Maybe that's because I've seen the episode before, but I don't know. At this point, I really am looking for, in television in general, for stuff of where when we have these scenes, and this happens actually a lot in this episode, this type of scene where a character is there's like a cliched scene, right? Mm-hmm. Where we've seen it a million times in a million different contexts that I think we've talked about this before. It's old. And maybe at this point in television it wasn't old, but it's old now, and so I don't know, I get bored.
Right. Well, yeah, and the it's again, I kind of wrote down that this episode was a little bit too slow. Like, I liked how the layers were peeled back, and I liked the conversations that were happening, but I just feel like there either should have been one more thing to move the plot at a faster pace, or it shouldn't have. I think that's probably how it should have been. There should have been one more plot element in this to keep it moving at a crisper pace, because there was a lot of character moments which are great, and I really liked all the things that happened in this episode, but there just seemed to be a little bit too much of repetition of like what the audience already knew and what the debate was.
Well, so let's get into that. So I think we can be a little bit nonlinear in this episode because not a lot happens, and I think that's maybe why you felt that, because they didn't have any momentum, because there was no intrigue. It really was an opportunity for the writers of Star Trek to lecture us about how conservative, how meaninglessly conservative society is. Mm-hmm. And I think that that guy that we're supposed to hate, obviously, is embodying. And I don't know. It felt so superficial and one-dimensional in terms of that being the problem, right? They could have come up with such a much better intrigue as to why there would be a dilemma as to whether or not they should initiate with first contact officially with this alien species, or if they should take a step back and do what they ultimately did at the end of the episode. But this was just we're not ready because people are ignorant, right? That's basically right. People are ignorant, and so therefore we're not ready. It will cause this great upheaval in our society that we're not ready for. So, yes, that is it is presented in parallel with our own society, but at the same time, can we not do something more interesting with this?
Right.
Although there is a very interesting scene.
Yep.
Kind of does not belong in this episode.
Well, there was another one earlier that kind of happens right after he after the lady, whatever her name was, like when she's all by herself, and then Picard and Troy beam down and kind of talk to her. Did you see the ship in the background before they beamed in?
No.
Oh,
what happened? What did I miss?
It was very much a schlong.
Well, wait a minute. It's like a rocket ship, though, right? Like aren't they all phallic like that?
Yeah, but it had like two shuttles at the base and then a bulbous tip at the end.
Yeah, maybe that was also commentary.
Well, and then at the end of this scene, they're talking about how like they have lots of differences, and Picard like very suggestively is like, and with your permission, I would like to show it to you. And the mood music starts, and she was like, I would like that. Right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I totally missed that. Maybe that's what I missed for the entire episode. Maybe that's what this episode is about. Is our sexual promiscuity.
Yeah.
And how we're not ready.
Yeah, just about world love. Yep.
Oh, wow. I can't believe I totally... Well, I'm going to definitely go back and watch the giant... It's going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was one of the first episodes where they'd actually done something like this, like created a world that was not our own and created a world on the edge of warp drive and that sort of thing. And it was kind of cool to like see this world where they have everything is alien, but you recognized all of it, like the when they were checking his life signs, and it comes out as like a diagonal coming across the screen with flashes. Like you very clearly know what's happening, even though it doesn't look at all like what we have.
Right. There's beeping and whatnot. There's heart monitors.
Right.
So then there's the other scene that happens where I was not expecting it, and I frankly
you
was
completely
hoping
forgot about it.
Oh yeah, I had no idea this was happening. And at first, this is the scene where the nerdy doctor lady
I thought she was a
Riker.
news reporter.
Whatever
right.
her, like, they gave her those sort of 50s-esque squarish glasses, right? And they kind of made her, I guess, prim and proper. And so, like, I kind of half expected her when she propositioned to, like, pull out a hairpin and let her hair down, like, wave her hair, you know? Like,
oh my gosh, totally, yes. Yeah.
And it was just so out of nowhere for the intensity that was at the stakes that were happening.
Right.
I thought that they were just sort of playing it halfway, in the sense like, oh, we're just going to wink, wink, nod, nod to the audience about it. But no, they went full, we have to have sex if you want to get out of here alive.
Right.
It was amazing. Like, I first of all, I mean, Star Trek very rarely
is that
outwardly is explicit about sex.
Yeah.
Right? And they didn't even say sex.
Right. No, they said
bumpies. Yeah. Can we do bumpies?
They called it farclam. But no,
it was make love. We're gonna make love. You have to make love to me. Yeah. It was amazing.
Well, so this is the part that, like, I really had the biggest issue with, was because if the roles were reversed, this would have been played as like her feeling threatened, her like, and you know, he was aggressive toward her, and you know, and that kind of thing. But like, she straight up raped him. Like, this was I mean, I think not consensual. I mean, yes, it's Riker, but
it's Riker. Like, I feel like if he didn't have to leave, he would have been totally cool with it, right?
Well, yes, but that's. I mean, he's always like, we shouldn't. Okay, but this time he genuinely seemed like, you know, lady, I've got a head injury. I've got to get back to my people. They have no idea where I am. Like, now is not the time. And you know, and it was played for comedy. It was played very, you know, much lighter than what the situation genuinely is, and it's so frustrating that when it's the role reversal like that on such a thing, it's played for ridicule. You know, it's played as it's just like, oh, how ridiculous is this? Like, you know, but he really wants it. You know that. Like,
well, and that I guess the idea also that she was throwing herself at him, right? Like she was down TD down to bone. TDB DTF. That's what she was.
Down to farclarm. Yep.
and I guess the character, it wasn't like she was some terrible person who was making him do this she wasn't really leveraging anything.
She was like, I will get you out of here if you do this.
Yeah. I mean, I
failed.
Like, yeah. She's running away. I don't even work here.
And I know that this is now, 25 years ago-esque. So I get that it's a different environment now, you know, and it's frustrating because it just continues for those people who are in those situations, or for those guys who do have a situation like this where, you know, they're not too keen on it, but the girl does want to, and, you know, and everybody's like, well, you know, you're a guy and it's sex, like, clearly you're going to.
Well, just to play devil's advocate, because it was played obviously as a joke or something light, right? And it was leveraging Riker's personality / reputation, right? Mm-hmm. The character who was propositioning him was not just a normal person; she was a
weirdo, who wanted to have like,
she was interspecies
sex.
She was like a furry, basically, right?
Yep.
And so I feel like, because in that light, is something like this off limits as a joke? So the idea that this was played with the intention of I don't know, making it be a light, which doesn't belong in this episode, by the way. Right?
So and so the way that I look at it, you know, when is just the same question that people ask, like, reverse the roles, and would this scene have still been okay? We had a nerd who was obsessed with aliens trying to help Troy get out of there, and and he said, I'll do it if you make love with me, and she's like, what? No, like I have a head injury, and I've got to get back to my people. They have no idea where I am. And he's like, yeah, and I'll help you get out of here as long as we get to have sex.
I get that part, but I feel like reversing the roles would also be like saying, okay, pretend they're totally different characters, and that's the difference for me, is that there is context to the scenario. It's not just some orphaned scenario where this event happens that we would consider to be heinous. There is context to it that you would need to have. You would need context in order for this to be lighthearted. I will concede that, but I don't know if it works to just say, well, if you reverse the roles, it's terrible, so therefore this way is terrible. Like I don't know if I go there 100% of the way. It is meant to be funny. Right. It's not meant to be just a scenario where Riker is propositioned for sex and it's a serious scenario. Like even Riker is kind of having fun with it, I guess, right? He wants to leave, but I don't know. I don't consider it a equally reversible or invertible situation where it's the same thing in this particular scenario. Because there is context around who the characters are, the way that they're portrayed, and the fact that it just is sandwiched in between very high stakes plotline that just doesn't belong. It's almost like they put it in as a comic relief.
Right. Well, and they kind of did, because BB Newirth this scene was written with BB Newirth in mind for her to play this character, and just as a fun little trivia.
That's who plays Riker? I had no idea. Jesus.
I know, makeup is amazing. And just as an aside, this is the first of many instances where actors from Frasier play a Star Trek character, but this is where it all started. Uh-huh. Yeah. And I get what you're saying, but it's one of those things that when it does come up, it's almost invariably played for laughs or for the ridiculousness of it, which is not fair, because there are people who are going through this, and to continually have it trivialized makes it very difficult for them.
And it's so ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous caricature of both of them, right? Like, it's such a weird, and like, he's an alien. He's like, look, we don't really match up. And she's like, no, teach me. He's like, no, you don't understand.
Right. It's not biologically possible.
Yeah, I've tried the last 6 months I've been here. I can't make it work.
See, and that's kind of the thing. Like, I feel like it almost should have been that he leaned into it rather than fighting it and then being like, all right, well, this is my only option. Let's go for it.
Right. It's not like he tried to seduce one of the medical people, also known as doctors. I don't like him, but you know what I mean? Like, he does. I feel like that would have been stepping over the line for me, where he tries to do right. Like, but that's not what they did.
Right.
I think they knew that was a bad thing.
But I feel like the moment he had seen that this was what she was going for, like, I don't think that he, like, I feel like my issue with it was that he tried to fight it and then accepted it because it was his only option. I feel like the moment he saw that she was flirty, he should have kind of leaned into that to go along with the joke,
Right. Well, and if we're speaking earnestly, as an operative, he would have leaned into it, right? He would have taken it, without if this was Jason Bourne.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, when you're deep undercover and you're about to be caught, like, you're kind of...
So what I heard is, when you're deep undercover and you're about to be hot, this is what you do.
Well,
you throw the covers off.
I'm getting hot. I better remove these covers. All I said was, I like your tie, man. That's all I said.
No, you're right. It's a sticky situation, especially now. I mean, then it probably was not really even considered.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about Barney. Like, I'm rewatching How I Met Your Mother, and that, like, his character. I mean, that kind of character is on so many shows, like Joey on Friends, Barney on How I Met Your Mother, David Spade on Rules of Engagement. There is always that character who just has a revolving door of women, and it, like, after the hashtag Me Too movement, like it's just it doesn't play for laughs the way that it used to.
So speaking of the situation not really matching what the script says.
Mhm.
So when Picard and Troy, they make first contact with the scientist, which, by the way, I feel like an alien race would never do this. They would never single out a single person where there wasn't anyone to corroborate somebody's story. They would go to a group of people. I understand not beaming down into a crowded square, right? If you're going to make first contact with a race, but beaming into like a press conference or something like that, where there's photographic evidence, there's a lot of people, there's no way you could hide it, right? But beaming into a dark room where there's only one scientist, aren't you just like, it doesn't make sense as a protocol to me. And I understand what they said. They said, well, we try and find people who would be sympathetic to what we're trying to do. And therefore we have an advocate once we try and propagate what we're trying to do. But just beaming into one person, it doesn't, like, they should have beamed to that meeting that they were having, right?
See, right, but it almost seems like it would be that, like, you would beam to a person of authority who you knew that you could trust, and have them set up a meeting that, you know, could be related, could be not related, but just something where they would have more people together, you know, and like it would have to have some other reason for meeting. You know, like you wouldn't say, hey, some aliens are stopping by, so let's meet together at 3:00 so you can meet them. You know, but have some kind of other topic that you were going to discuss, so then the aliens could present at that meeting, so then there would be more people to see it. You know, and at that point, I feel like that like committee or group of people, you know, who would then be working with the aliens to try and figure out what the best course of action would be to introduce them to a growing population or the rest of the world, you know, or how that would work.
Yeah, I mean, I could see trying to get an advocate first. It seems like an extra step. Just beam into the meeting, right? And the whole, well, first of all, so the lady's like, is this some joke the people in whatever put you up to? And he's like, no, this is no joke. As you can see, we're quite physically different. I'm like, are you? Or are you pretty much the same? Except for a couple of ridges and some fingers. It's not like you're these amorphous blobs rolled in and you're like, sorry, I don't understand. Who are you?
Just gonna turn my phaser up to 10.
Just get rid of you immediately. The whole overarching problem, perhaps morality, if you will, of this episode.
Oh, I will.
Is Picard, well, the Federation has had observers, quote unquote, on the planet observing people for several years.
Right.
And that's sort of it's an invasion, technically, and invasive. And obviously they did not like that. Right. And the idea that they would not be able to monitor this race from orbit or from a hiding place, right? That they would need to have operatives. I mean, even to us, and we are far less advanced than the race that they're trying to make first contact with in this episode. You could just watch basically terabytes, petabytes, zettabyte, whatever you want, like however much data we have where we're FaceTiming, making telephone calls, our television, our news, our email, like everything. That you would not need to have people on the ground, right? It would be way too dangerous. It doesn't make any sense. Because you have plenty, especially now, where, I mean, with the whole COVID thing, everybody's communicating by the internet anyway. So, I mean, truly, the amount of communication that we do in person now, even before COVID, is a marginal minority to what we do on the internet anyway. So you would not, I mean, so fast forward 50, 100 years, you would not need to have people on the ground.
No, I disagree. Because even when we're doing all of these just phone calls and FaceTime and that kind of thing, it's still some level of presentation. And I think by actually having boots on the ground, you know, you can go to the local market and you can see people, how they interact on a much more casual basis. You can see how they're interacting when they don't think they're being watched. You know, and so like do you need years? Maybe not. I don't know. Like I would think that's a little bit heavy, especially given all of the entertainment media and social interaction that does happen over broadcasting. but I think that you would need that. And it could be that they had an idea and they went down and they realized that they needed more time to have a better picture of what these people were like.
I think that telephone calls, I mean, is there really more, are you putting on more of a face or an act, I suppose, than if you're sitting in person with that person? You know, like, I don't know. I don't,
Right.
I mean, I can see what you're saying, that there is a level, there is a barrier that technology provides that maybe does not exist but we have barriers in real life too.
Oh, for sure.
We're not,
Yeah.
so I don't know. And we don't know precisely what they were looking for. And a huge failure, by the way, by these observers. They should have said, look, these people are not ready. You know, they're not going to be able to accept. Obviously, they're very conservative. They're even more so than I guess our society would be.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well,
Otherwise, it wouldn't be an allegory.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't. If somebody were to, if an alien race were to come down to planet Earth and do what Picard did, what would happen? And how would we react, as assuming that they would make it known to everybody, right? That there wouldn't be one person. That's another thing, is that I don't think an alien race would make themselves known to a singular government or a singular group of people, or even just a singular office of people. I think that they would make themselves known to everybody and make everybody make the decision, right? To do. I mean, that's why it's sort of a tenuous situation, is that you can't. I mean, I got they gave the impression that it was sort of a microcosm of the planet. This guy, this
right, mm-hmm.
this ambassador,
mm-hmm. Right? Like he wasn't like world president or something. Yeah.
Well, was he though? Because he says that he was the center of the universe. And was there just a world government?
Maybe. That is a fair point. I did not think so.
Because that would be ridiculous. I mean, maybe an advanced society would have sort of a singular world government.
Yeah.
But you'd think that they would be a little bit more advanced culturally at that point. I don't know. It would be interesting to get into the actual, like, this would have been a really great movie, right? If they had upped the game in terms of the intrigue, it would have been a very interesting science fiction movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily a Star Trek movie, because you don't really get to do a lot of Star Trek fun stuff, but
Can you hear that?
I heard that, yeah.
You did hear the creepy whispering?
Yeah.
You should leave it in. Yeah, you definitely need to leave that in.
That was Becca, right?
No, that was me.
Oh, yeah, right. Of course. But yeah, like, it's an interesting idea that at a certain point, the Federation abandons the first, or the Prime Directive, and they make contact because these people have arrived at the ability to do warp.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Warp. They have why? Why is that the case? You know, I mean, why is that the marker of being ready and not being ready?
Are you genuinely asking?
I guess. Yeah, like that's a very interesting line to draw, because if you think about Earth, if we're taking from the canon of Star Trek, that society was not ready, right, for alien. Like they needed to get there. We had just gotten through World War III when first contact happened to Earth.
Right.
And I would think that, yes, they had just achieved warp drive, but they also had just gotten done annihilating themselves. Are they ready?
Right. So the Federation is kind of where the idea came from. It wasn't something that was happening before that, and Earth was the one who created the Federation. The Vulcans came to Earth because they saw the warp signature, not because they had been observing before that. And so Picard's kind of saying the same thing. Like, when you develop warp drive, you are then going to explore the world, explore the universe, and there's lots of potential danger out here. And so we try to be here to help those planets that are discovering warp drive for the first time, warp travel, to guide them, you know, to kind of be like, you know, these are the steps that were taken. Well, no, I guess they don't even do that. It's just to make sure that they're aware of what's out there, you know, and they're not immediately hit by Klingons or Borg, and, you know, that's the end of it.
Well, there's a weird thing that happens, though, because he says, we're not going to give you we're not going to share technology. That would be destructive.
Right.
But we're here to give you information about what you're getting yourself into, and they're unclear as to what that information is.
Right.
In terms of guiding them, and what way are they going to guide them? Because they do say that, I mean, the implication of what Picard says about technology is that you need to arrive at this yourself. you need to you need to go through the motions and the pain of attaining this level of technology.
Right.
Just giving it to you would be bad. Same thing I would think would apply to space travel in the sense of you need to learn how to deal with other races. You need to learn how to you need training wheels basically. Right. And so I don't like how is he going to guide them without giving it away?
The impression that I get is you basically have a teacher over you watching you discover these things on your own, and kind of nudging you in a specific direction, whether or not it's the right one. It could be that like along the way you veer off in a different direction that discovers something new, and they start to work with you because they have the advanced technology to help you do the things that you're now discovering, now that you've already discovered faster than light travel. Is that right? I think it is. Yeah, it's faster than light. Warp drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
practically speaking.
Right. And so they're there to then encourage you at the pace that your planet is able and willing to go. So like the Vulcans specifically held back information from Earth because they felt we weren't ready. And I think that's what the Prime Directive does. Like we don't hold back information if we think they're not ready. We let them move at their own pace, and we are there to give them the encouragement that they are moving forward. Not necessarily that they're moving in the right direction, because I feel like every time I start saying this, I feel like I'm offering up propaganda. Like they're making sure they're doing it the right way or that kind of thing. And so I'm trying to avoid that kind of verbiage.
Yeah, they're almost missionaries. They're trying to be, they are trying to guide. I mean, in a way, the guy that we're supposed to hate in this episode, who is embodying conservative people in our society, has a point. He has a point in that if these people are here to guide us through something, how do we know that it is the right way? Right. How do we know that this isn't some manipulation? Mm-hmm. Granted, it's more complicated than that, but the idea would be, are they missionaries who are landing in South America and ready to help the natives see the light?
Right. Well, yeah, and I feel like that's what the Prime Directive avoids. It's literally they are there to see what direction they're going and then help them with the tools they need to get in that direction. Not to follow in the footsteps of how Earth got there or how Vulcan got there or whatever. It's just, they now have a coalition of so many different planets and planets that got to warp drive and beyond that they can see whether or not it's away from one of those previous planets or it's a different way, and it seems to be that lateral sharing of technology is fine. It's the sharing of advanced technology that is the problem.
Well, but also so Picard says my intention is not to manipulate you. We want to let your society advance as it would have, and just by making first contact, that's gone out the window. He's already influenced the society, even at that small level, right? Because they know that these people exist, and that's going to get out. Like the way that they sort of reason away, like too many people have seen aliens. Like it's going to get out. People have taken pictures, right? We have photographic and medical evidence, and I don't know if that would go away, right? I mean, they kind of talk it away a little bit, but with that level of evidence, I mean, that's the one thing that we lack here is photographic evidence. Neil deGrasse Tyson said that. Like he said, at this point, now I can understand the 50s not having photographic evidence of something because you don't have a camera ready to go when you see something. But nowadays, everybody walks around with a very high resolution camera in their pocket. Mm-hmm. So where's the evidence? Where's the evidence of aliens? If they exist out there, surely at this point, with half the planet with a camera in their pocket, we would have seen something by now.
Well, and I feel like that's that's the point that conspiracy theorists make, is that yes, we have seen it. It's just people play it off as fake. They would see it and go, well, this is just a digital image, or it's just, like, why couldn't, kind of what you just said, why couldn't you get a clearer picture of it?
Right. Yeah. I suppose once one of them beams into Times Square,
right,
that will be the end of that, right?
See, I don't know. Like, I feel like kind of the same thing. Like, I feel like people, if they are out there, I feel like that's part of the problem, is that we have such opposing views on what we think of the world in general, that we would kind of have exactly what happened in this episode. We'd have people who are like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a thing, and we kind of need to brace for it. And we would have people who, like, devout Christians who believe that we were created in God's image and that there is a heaven afterward where we spend the rest of eternity. Like, to learn that we are not the only sentient beings in the universe, like that upends everything. Like, were we the only, like, does that mean there is only one God who created the universe? And if so, like, did they create only humans in their image?
They start retconning the Bible a little bit. No, I get it. And I understand the instinct to hold on, to clutch the traditional values because it is what's familiar and what, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But when the Enterprise is hovering over Times Square, and there is no doubt, right? I mean, here's the thing though. I just had this thing like, okay, yeah, that would be irrefutable evidence. But yet there are still people who think the Earth is flat, right? So we have evidence of even in the face of evidence that people will find ways to conspiratorially disagree with it.
Right.
And I guess that's
right.
I think that they try and do this microcosm thing with this episode, and I wish it were more of a deep intrigue as opposed to what it is. Like, we have that super xenophobic guy who opts for martyrism.
Yes.
Which doesn't work.
Right.
Do people like that in real life exist? I mean, he's written specifically so we'll hate him entirely, right? He's super one-dimensional, and there is no situation where it's like, I can see what he says. That's a very good point. That, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I said that earlier, but you know what I mean? Like, he's written in such a way where he's supposed to be the bad guy. He's Freddy from Nightmare on 22nd Street.
It's Mulberry Lane.
Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he is the obvious bad guy.
Right.
And he's supposed to embody all of the people who don't like Star Trek.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But people like that don't exist, right? If they do, maybe internally they're that kind of despicable, but really no conversation happens like that in real life.
No, I think it does.
Really? It just feels so heavy-handed, and
most space movies have like that kind of general, where...
Yeah, but exactly, it's very familiar.
Yeah.
But does it actually exist in real life?
Oh, I think so. Again, it's one of those things where, like, we wouldn't accept it if it wasn't based in reality. And it might be, a caricature and an exaggeration of those people, kind of what you were saying, like, they might feel that way behind closed doors, but we for the most part, we all know somebody who we can see responding in that way, whether or not it was their actual, like, that they were that vocal about it, or whether or not it's actually about aliens or just something in general. But we know somebody who would act that way about something, and so we could see somebody acting that way about discovering that there is alien life. And I really do think that if, like, there are people who, even if an alien race came down and said, like, we are here to help, and here's the information that will help you, they would say, no, you are just here to take, to enslave us.
I don't know. I feel like, yes, we see this type of quality in people, but this isn't a decision on whether or not the next Bond should be a female, right? This seems to me to be heavier stuff. And I feel like I want to have more faith in the human race that something like this would be a positive game changer of which the Earth has never seen.
Right.
I just can't imagine somebody clutching on to, in some way, like just a 90-degree turn in their values and their beliefs, and looking at that as bad when it's something like, oh, we're here to help you. We're here to usher you out of the darkness and bring you into the light. And they reject it entirely. I don't know. It seems ridiculous. Would the Pope say, no, they're here to destroy us? Fire all of your guns at them. Or any religious leader, his gun. Right? Yeah.
He leads the fray.
It sounds like it should belong in a Quentin Tarantino movie, right? The Pope, like, pulls out a shotgun from underneath his robes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But no, I feel like this very much is a thing. And like they said in this, like we had in our world, or I think what you said, like we had missionaries, coming saying we are here to help, and the natives of that country took it in stride, and and like the Spanish conquistadors, there we go, that's a better example, into America. They came in and promised peace and assistance, and they not only stole the gold, but they brought disease and pestilence that the Native Americans hadn't seen before.
You're right. I mean, it is sort of the same scenario, but that was 600 years ago.
Right, but think about like how advanced. I mean, so based on Star Trek lore, the Federation is 200 years more advanced than this population, and so like what are they bringing to this population that they've never experienced before, and are consequently going to have are going to suffer for it?
I don't know. I would think that there's a certain point, right? It's not as though there's an infinite amount of enlightenment, right? There's a not a plateau, but it's not like we just keep edging towards enlightenment infinitely. There's a point where you're like, okay, I kind of get it, right? We're still going to learn lessons along the way, but we should stop jamming, our fists down people's throats, right? So there's a point where that happens. And so it's not like the Federation is exponentially more enlightened than this race just because they happen to have existed longer, right? There's a point, like I would think, especially a race that is more advanced than ours, humans right now, like let's say 100 years maybe, that they, even if they did have conservative values, they would have come to certain conclusions. They would have arrived somewhere. Even as bad as society is right now, everybody says like we've never had it so good.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We've never had it so good as humans in history. Right. So it's always getting better. It just doesn't seem like it. So I don't know. It would seem like there would be some level of practicality and rationality that they would not just immediately dismiss them because there are people who wouldn't be able to handle it. Right. I guess.
I hope so.
The attack on their values. I mean, I would hope so too. By the way, at times fantasize about the alien lady, like that happening to me. her not the doctor propositioning me for sex, but the take me with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I completely misunderstood. That's what I thought you were talking about. Okay. Oh, so well, I was thinking about her. I mean, and she's basically a Talaxian. Yeah, she's a Talaxian. Like she's going to be Neelix.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally.
And we've already talked about it with Neelix. Like I don't know, because what if it turns out that they are biologically unique and they can only mate with each other? Like there is no crossbreeding of different alien races with this alien race.
I've got 3 words for you: holodeck.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like computer, scan my biology.
No, you bring all of your whatever, like actor, rock star. Be like, I want you to make me an amalgam of all of these 5 men or women and put them in there.
Yeah.
And I'll see you every Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Right?
I'll see you after work.
Yeah. By the way, we don't work here, so I'm going to see you every day. All day.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I guess like to have actual companionship might be a little, well, I mean, you could, as long as they were aware, they're like, man, we get along so great. I love you so much. You're like, yeah, still need the holodeck though.
You see, I've developed an adapter.
Right.
I have an adapter. Is this a proper Star Trek episode or not?
Yeah, I would absolutely say it is. Yeah, I mean, it definitely has the moral and ethical dilemma, and First Contact would definitely be a sci-fi element. So I don't think I'm curious to know whether you say it's not, because I don't see how you could say that.
I think the moral quandary is there. I don't know if the science fiction quandary is there, or expression. I don't know. Like I can see on the face of it that yes, this is something that is a heavy science fiction plotline.
Okay, there we go. We're agreed.
Theme.
All right.
But
sorry, that's all the time we have. Let's see what we're watching next.
But it's one of those things where, to me, the lecturing that happened, it felt like this was a lecturous episode in the sense that 4 or 5 times we get the speech about how people just won't understand. We're too ingrained in with the way, and we're meant to hate these people.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that's what drives me away from it being science fiction, because there really isn't the element at hand is not a science fiction problem. It could be moving to a new country or letting immigrants in, right? It could be any of those things just put forth, and they just happen to be from space and not from a third world country, right? And so I don't necessarily buy that the scenario of the first contact is the object at hand here. I feel like they could have had such a much more interesting science fiction related dilemma that wasn't conservative people are bad, that could have driven this better. And so I might abstain at this point from it being a proper Star Trek episode just because of that. It was kind of infuriating to go through this whole thing, and that was the theme, that conservative people are bad.
But I feel like the biology element of it is kind of what made it even more so.
That was cool. I mean, that was cool in that was sort of the inciting incident.
Yeah.
But it goes away. Like we talked about. It's like that cool part that at the beginning, that never happens again. That kind of intensity.
Yeah. But I feel, yes, he was the MacGuffin, but I feel like they were still trying to deal with all of his medical issues. No, they weren't. Like they just talked about how it wasn't like there wasn't any problem with like not knowing how to deal with him because he was an alien race. You know, they were just like, look at these abnormalities. Anyway, let's take care of him.
I mean, that was cool. I will agree with you. That was a cool. I kind of wish that was the focus,
right? Rather
than this other diplomatic stuff. I just get bored with that stuff. You know me.
Yeah.
Get bored.
But you're kind of right. Like the issue was about getting Riker back, and there wasn't any subplot about like what to do with this dying man when they don't know how to treat him. You know?
Yeah. And there was. Yeah. It was just it devolved into, oh, he's an alien, let's kill him.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And the doctor was like, no, we have to save him. But there wasn't any how do we do that?
Yeah, I'm on the fence. There was definitely science fiction in this, and obviously the topic of first contact is a science fiction like topic.
Yep.
Clearly. But I don't know. It wasn't really well executed for me in terms of not in I didn't like it, but in that they missed the mark. Right? They had a great opportunity, and for me it just swing and a miss.
So I'm just trying to think like, is the because is sci-fi integral to the plot, and I mean, First Contact is essentially sci-fi, and the MacGuffin of him being an alien is what kicks the whole thing off. Granted, they don't talk about it nearly as much as now talking about it like you and I would have liked, but without him being an alien, this plot would not have moved forward the way that it did. Part
of science fiction is the complexity of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a plot that is a love story, right? It's more of a fractal kind of thing where it just there are so many layers to it, and it just didn't happen with this. And I didn't feel it. Maybe I'm falling into the I didn't like it, so therefore disqualified.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm abstaining for now.
Okay.
Maybe on the second time we come around, as we apply our honed criteria after 13 years, I'll have changed my tune.
Right. All right, let's see what we're watching next. All right, we are back with DS9, and it is actually the follow-up to the two-part about the Dominion that we saw. It's the wedding of Worf and Dax. You are cordially is what it says. I'm going to guess it's you are cordially invited, and I can't see the rest of it, but...
Does anything happen on DS9?
Worf and Dax resume the planning of their long-awaited wedding, which hinges on Martok's wife, Sorella, accepting Dax into the House of Martok.
Okay.
Wait, I thought Worf had adopted parents that were human.
He does.
So then why does she have to be invited into the House of Martok?
I don't know.
Right? I mean, we'll find out, which I'm super excited for. Like, I was really looking forward to getting to this episode. I'm glad we hit it,
This is your show, not my show. Okay? Okay, what's the likelihood, the over-under, if you will, that there will be darts in this episode?
I'm going to say... Well, actually...
I mean, they're real.
No, right.
We're gonna a little wager.
Right. Well, I was going to say 100%, but focused on Worf and Dax, I'm still going to say 100%. It's going to be Bashir and Kaiko. That I want to see.
Oh, I would see that too.
No, it's Bashir and O'Brien. playing darts, talking about Dax getting married and how they never thought it would have happened. And I'm gonna
especially because Bashir has a crush on Dax,
right? And I'm gonna say that it's actually the cold open.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were able to fit darts into a Bajoran Civil War episode,
right?
So, in terms of them not being able to fit it into stuff, that's they find ways.
Right. I mean, they fit it into the episode where O'Brien's baby couldn't sleep. So, you know.
That's true.
All right, well, let's get this over with.
Yeah.